Democrats, a deal that he says must include funding for a wall along our southern border. Joining us now, Arizona Congresswoman Martha McSally, vitally involved in this issue. She serves on the Homeland Security and Armed Services Committees. So the president has said there are 4 things that are essential to any deal on immigration. He says you got to have more money for border security. You got to end chain migration. You got to end the visa lottery. And then you have to come up with some kind of an arrangement on DACA, or the so-called Dreamers. Sounds pretty reasonable.
Yes.
Are you inclined to go along with what the president has to say? And what about some in the opposing party?
Absolutely. We've been working on this now for months, and 4 of us, members of Congress in the House, introduced a bill yesterday that essentially covers the president's priorities. Look, I think Republicans are generally open to some sort of legislative move related to the DACA population, but there's a couple of priorities that have to be most important. One is we have to secure our border. I represent a district. We have cartels trafficking through our communities. It's a public safety and national security issue, and we need to make sure we're not incentivizing more illegal activity coming across the border. So that's a reasonable request to include a border wall, and we've seen how barriers work in a district like mine. Additionally, we've got to make sure we've got agents and technology and a strategy that's going to work. Also in our bill, we've got ending chain migration, ending the visa lottery, cracking down on sanctuary cities and Kate's Law, and we've got a mandatory E-Verify and a guest worker program. These are very reasonable things that we're asking to tie together with any DACA solution, and we're asking for our Democrat colleagues to get more reasonable and start negotiating with us in good faith.
But some Democrats have said, you know, it's DACA and nothing else. No strings attached. You got to pass DACA. You got to find a way to allow the Dreamers to stay in this country. What do you say?
It's not happening. First of all, they are trying to hold our budget negotiations hostage to this issue, and it's our military that is suffering the most. January 19th is when the government funding ends, and our military needs certainty and funding in the readiness crisis that we're in so that they can keep us safe. And I think it's unbelievable. I brought it up at the White House meeting that they are now trying to hold our military hostage so they can protect people that are here illegally. It doesn't make any sense, and the American people aren't going to go for it. The deadline is March 5th. Let's support our military, fund the government, and continue to negotiate in good faith. They have got to come off their unreasonable view that is DACA or nothing. It's not happening. We've got to secure our border. We've got to end chain migration, the visa lottery, and have these other fixes in place so that we make sure we're not in a situation with 800,000 more DACA people in the next 1 to 5 years. That is a reasonable approach that we have taken, and we're asking our counterparts to meet us there.
But as you know, there are many in the Democrat Party. I mean, California just voted itself a sanctuary state. So there are many who think that, you know, the notion of sanctuary cities is sacrosanct.
And it's irresponsible. Kate Stein will be the first to tell you that because of the man who killed her, who had been deported 5 times. And when the federal authorities were begging, please let them come into the jail and get him, he was released again into the community. This is irresponsible, and it is a public safety threat to communities around our country, and we shouldn't be playing politics with American lives like that.
The folks in your district support the idea of a wall, or at least some kind of, you know, more effective border separation?
Those who live along the border will tell you when there was nothing before, no physical barriers, it was a free-for-all. The cartels were just driving and coming across anywhere they could. Now we have some physical barriers, and it has created a challenge, but we need more. There's places where it's Normandy defenses. You can step right over it. So a border wall in places where it's appropriate, combined with Border Patrol agents at the border and a good strategy, intel-driven operations and technology so that we can intercept, track, and get these guys as they're coming over. So this is something those who live along the border are dealing with every single day, and they're glad, and I am too, that we now have a partner in the administration, the White House, that is willing and able to secure our border once and for all.
As these negotiations go along, we're going to be keeping a very close eye on them. Congresswoman Martha McSally.